What's up, everyone? You're listening to the In Camp Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Hepler. This is the show where we talk all hunting, all fishing, all the hard-earned lessons that keep us coming back season after season. I'm doing an Upland episode for the end of March. We talk about bird dogs, the importance of training, but just the awesomeness that is the Uplands. My guest today, you're going to love him. He is the Upland Social himself. So tune in and then go to the links in the show notes to listen to his show. So enjoy this episode. I know you will. This is In Camp Podcast. I've never heard anybody make a better intro than this guy, so I'm not even going to try to attempt his prowess. But the Upland Social man himself, Mr. Ryan Lynton. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? Glad to be here today.
I'm excited. We got to meet each other a couple weeks ago on your show, and it's been really good getting to know you. So, kind of staying in touch through text and stuff. But it's been fun, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, same here, man. I'm excited to talk all things that you want to talk about today. So just bird dogs and hunting and birds themselves and everything in between.
Well, I have plenty of people. I started In Camp to keep it like very versatile. I love bow hunting. I love doing everything. So, but I love bird dogs. And I have plenty of people that listen to the show that love bird dogs too. And they're like, man, I really hope you get more bird dog guests in here. So this is going to be a fun one. I know
it's a good thing. It's a good thing to get more bird dog people.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's funny because I'm always pitching it to my buddies. Like, you have a bow, but you don't have a bird dog. So like, that's the next thing on the list,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're still deficient.
Yeah. You need to be more rounded, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan, why don't you first start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with your platform and your show?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So my name is Ryan Lynton. I am a bird hunter in southern Indiana, right on the Kentucky border. So I can drive 5 minutes and see the state of Kentucky across the Ohio River. So before I get into the kind of more current things that I'm doing with, like, from a content creation, whatever you want to, whatever phrase you want to use there, with kind of outdoor media kind of stuff. I started bird hunting probably around 2020, aggressively. I shot my first quail probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that.
Uh-huh.
But even before the bird hunting stuff, what really lit the fire for me is going rabbit hunting and just the whole rush of just an animal kind of popping out of the brush or popping out of the grass out of nowhere, and you having to hit a moving target. And I remember just really enjoying the rush of just having to make that sporting shot of something that's like on the fly, that I've got to make this shotgun pattern, like, intercept with this target.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought that was like so cool. So rabbits were definitely like the first kind of leg of that, and I did that for a good while. But I remember flipping through, each state kind of gets their game and fish regulations publication that comes out every year.
Uh-huh.
And I remember flipping through that, and I saw this big, giant, rainbow-esque, crazy looking bird in our game and fish regulations. And I was like, man, pheasant, that's pretty cool looking. Like, wonder where you hunt those, and we obviously have them here somewhere in my state. And so that was like kind of started the wheels of curiosity in my brain of maybe hitting a moving target in the air could be cool too,
Uh-huh.
So continued to rabbit hunt, flushed. I remember the very first time I ever saw a quail, and I was with my brother, and it was just one single bird that was like broken up from a really big covey that we got into right after that. But it just kind of like it popped up and kind of just fluttered a little bit and sat back down, and it wasn't like super spooked. And I remember yelling at my brother across the brush, and I was saying, "Hey, there's a quail over here." And he knew that I had never seen one before, and he was like, "How did you know that that's what that was?" And I was just like, I don't know. I just knew that it was.
Yeah.
And so he shot a bird that day, saw like 20, 25 birds kind of get up out of a, just a big covey flush and just thought that was so cool. And then a few years later, or maybe even that next season, I can't remember, but I was just hunting by myself and shot a bird out of that same, you know, family, like, or like a descendant of that covey that I saw the year before.
Yeah.
Um, and just, man, I just thought that was just like the coolest thing, just this cool little bird, um, and yeah, and so I just kind of carried a flame for just wing shooting, I think, at the beginning. And I remember the first time I ever shot a rooster pheasant, um, which, well, I guess technically it was at a game farm, and that was a unique experience. Still glad that I did it. I've not done anything like that since, but I'll move on to the wild stuff. So I took a trip to Iowa, just picked out a spot on the map that um, I thought looked like it could potentially have some pheasants. It was just like 300 acres of grass, and um, so I went with my uncle who just recently moved there. My aunt and my uncle to Southeast Iowa, and so we just went up on opening day, and it was cool. We saw a few pheasants on the roadsides on the way up there, and within a couple of hours after that, like, I'd shot my first pheasant ever, and I just thought, man, I have to keep doing this.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe like what I was holding in my hands. It was the culmination of like desire over like years. And I've got that bird mounted at home in my office right now. And it's just such a sweet, special memory that I get to look back on and kind of think about every single day. Um, Flash forward a little bit later, I go to Iowa again. I meet up with, so I work at a church, and I met a pastor friend online, and he invited me to come out to, another part of Iowa that he lives in, north central Iowa, to chase birds around for a week. And he had 2 American Britneys, and I just over the course of that week just fell in love with Britneys, and I just love their demeanor and just like um, what I call like the savage hunter that's, like, veiled behind sweetness.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just loved what they were and who they were and the handler that had him, the type of the person that he was, and, and just I just it was just everything. And I'll never forget the last day. So he had an older dog she's passed at this point, and then, his, like, young and up and coming dog at the time. And the older dog was getting tired, and so was he. And he's like, "I'm just gonna head back to the vehicle with Lady. Feel free to stay out here and hunt with Coco, who was the younger dog." And man, no sooner had he left, the dog Coco's working in front of me, and she just goes from like just kind of meandering just into just a frozen rock solid point right in front of me. Um, and the grass was, like, it was unusual in the sense it was really tall, it was over my head, but it was still quite open underneath where you could see pretty
Yeah.
well, and I peered down in there, and I could see that pheasant laying there on the ground, and, these are wild birds, so I was pretty impressed that it was even just still sitting there like that, and, yeah, and it was a hint, so, you just let it fly, but still it just, like, kinda just sealed the deal for me. So, carried a flame for the American Brittany. Years later, 2021, I had a stint there where I was pursuing, like, music pretty heavily and trying to, like, songwriting and going out and playing shows, and was really into that, and I still really enjoy doing that. It's just kinda at a different pace for me now. But I remember, like, when that kinda slowed down, my wife was like, "Okay, I think I'm on board as well, with bringing a bird dog home." And buddy, that's all it took for her to give the green light. And, so we found a breeder in, Southwest Kentucky, right on the Tennessee line, and, just a sweet, little, kinda older couple that just loves bird dogs, and, so we found some people that got dogs from them, and they had nothing but great things to say, and so that's when we brought Creek home in 2021, March the 27th, I believe, is when we brought her home, and, yeah, so now, like, I've hunted 11 states with Creek, and, it's just been a tremendous, last 5 years with her. I've looked at her before and I know she obviously doesn't understand me, but I'll just look at her in the eyes and say, "Thank you for taking me to cool places because, like, I would never have gone there without you." And and because of that, and because I've fallen in love, just so much with, like, this lifestyle um, and I truly believe it's that. It's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle. I think, my wife and I, we both, like, truly love the outdoors, and she's not a bird hunter, but she definitely enjoys, like, going on the walks with me and watching the dog work. Um, it from cooking it at home, like, with wild game to just the the spiritual implications to the rest, and the solace that it can bring, just being in these places. Um, for me, it really is a lifestyle. It's a dismissive moniker to call it just a hobby. Like I think it's more than that. And I've become very intrigued and passionate about uh, the upland space and wild places and a lot of like you know, organizations that we're a part of, be it PF, QF, Ducks Unlimited, that fight and defend and help preserve these wild places. And so, what I'm getting at is that I wanted to find a way to be more of a presence in the outdoor space, specifically the upland bird hunting community, as a way to uphold it and
Mhm.
to make it better. And so over the last few years, I've been doing more outdoor writing, and that has definitely found some success, which I'm super, super thankful for. But as of late, through the friendly kick in the pants from a fellow friend in the outdoor space, um, he really encouraged me. He's like, "Man, you need to start a bird hunting podcast." And so I took about a week and thought about it, sought some, advice, insight from people around me that I trusted, prayed about it, and just felt like that was the right move too, to do this, and to kind of just help um, add like another stroke, if you will, to the painting of like what I believe is like the story of the uplands, and like what I believe zoomed out further from that is like the story of creation as well,
Mhm. Mhm.
and helping defend and fight for and celebrate and preserve and uphold these wild places because they've been really good to me. So I want to be good back to them, and not only that, but to the people that I know that are like minded as well. So yeah, that's what the Upland Social was born out of, and to and always trying to make sure that what am I doing to elevate the space and not just be like noise in it, but to
Mhm.
actually be the right type of presence, in this space as well. So that's probably a whole lot more than you asked for, but that's from kind of start to finish to where we are today in 2026. That's the Upland Social, man.
Yeah, that's all we have for today, folks. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
Dude,
I don't
so
blame
well
you.
said. There's so much I should have taken notes because there was so much that you said in that that I just love, and I'm sure I'll come back to questions in it. But first things first. If you ever do come see me in PA, you don't have to let those hens fly. You can let
That's
them
right.
have
Yeah,
it in PA.
yeah. That's the nice thing about stalkers, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we actually only came around a couple years ago.
Oh, really?
They tried to like. There is a couple places in PA that have wild pheasants and like recovery areas or whatever. You can't shoot. Actually, in some of those areas, you can't shoot pheasants at all. But
Hmm.
um, the the hens being able to shoot hens is only kind of a new thing, maybe in the last 7 or 8 years or something like that. So, but man, I agree with you so much. The bird dogs are so special, and they really bring so much into hunting. But you said you didn't really start out in the uplands, but you grew up hunting and fishing and all that kind of stuff in the outdoors as well? Not
Nope,
really?
not at all. No,
That's awesome.
I was a very indoorsy kid, is what I say.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was a very as the term that I'm sure you've heard as well, like adult onset hunter. That was very much my story as well.
I love that because I haven't gotten to so many people that are in like it's a really hard thing for adults to do is to get into hunting because like there's there's this regulation and that regulation in this state and that state and it's so much to learn and then you got to learn animals on top of it and then you got to try to get good at it and it's like oh, where do I start
Mhm.
and it's so cool. Bird dog is could be a really good gateway and actually as in your case a really good passion for a lot of people because you have so many different avenues and you don't have to stop with a bird dog in the fall. Like if you're
Mhm.
really into it, the trials and all that kind of stuff are really great ways to keep active with your bird dog all year.
Even if you're not doing, like, the NAVHDA and field trial stuff in the summer, um, what's awesome is that, like, there's so many ways just to enjoy life with your bird dog,
Hmm.
year round. So, like, for example, today, yeah, I've got a trail that's a half mile from my house, like, that's out in the woods, and I take my dog a lot this time of year where it's not hunting season, um, but yeah, it's a mile-long trail, and I can run back there with her and just enjoy, like, that with her, and hiking, and I think it's because you've got this animal staring you in the face every day.
Hmm.
It's a constant reminder of the investment that you've made, and I think that's why I think as bird hunters, and please don't hear this the wrong way from, like, anybody that may be a whitetail hunter or a turkey hunter, but, like, and there's avid whitetail hunters and turkey hunters that are thinking about it every single day. I'm not saying that, but I think for us, it takes on just different chapters,
Hmm.
in different parts of the year. So, like, right now, what I'm thinking about is just, like, staying in shape with my dog, like, getting, for next season. And, um, for some people, it's tuning up things, like, with their dogs, that they wanna see, whether it's steadiness or recall or fetching, things like that, that they wanna see improve for next season. And then hunting season is obviously hunting season where you're going out and hunting with your dog. And so I think it seems like it lends itself more to just kinda like a year-round mindset, with the bird hunting stuff, given the fact that you have a dog, I should say, like, if you have a
Yeah.
bird dog.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, it just that's why for me, it's a lifestyle kinda thing, like, and one of the things that I love about right now too is, like, we go out, like today, like, we flushed a woodcock that they're, migrating back through right now, and I love that. I love this time of year, like, where you can go out and just watch birds sky dance and take your dog and run them on birds and let them get pointed, and, you're obviously not hunting, but you're still in that triangle of you and the dog and the bird, and I love
Hmm.
that. And so, yeah, it's just a year-round endeavor, I think is what I would say.
It's so valid, man. I mean, I'm somebody who just likes to do everything. Like like I was out ice fishing. I'm always trying to be on the water or in the woods in some capacity.
Yeah.
But outside of bow hunting, there's not a whole lot I can't do with my dog.
Mhm.
Like whether I'm scouting for whitetails, looking for sheds, or uh, mostly that's like he's not a good shed hunting dog. He's just I like having him with me because
It's
he gets
company, yeah.
yeah. Well, it's company. He gets experience in the woods just built in. Like we're flushing grouse and woodcock and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
yeah.
And that's anytime the dog is in the woods, he's learning something and it's so fun, but it's really rewarding. But it is something that you can do all year, and that really does lend itself to that valuable time all year.
Mhm.
If you're Cam Haines, you're running at 10,000 feet, so you can kill a giant elk
Right.
every year. But
Right.
there's that aspect of it. But you and I talked on your last podcast about. I don't want to get too far off topic because we're probably going to talk about this later, but just the adventure side of it too
Mhm.
is you can go see all these really cool places with your bird dog and have that adventure and not have to like make your house broke because you went bird hunting.
100%.
Super, super, super budget friendly. Like whether it's there's just so much you can do with it, and it is one of those things that like I always laugh at some of the Orvis type hobbies, like fly fishing. Fly fishing is not really that cheap. Like if you want to do it right,
Right.
like you're also a really expensive rod and all these little pieces and you could do bird dogs that way, I guess, but you could like scrape the bottom of the barrel and still have a great time and still have a really good dog and a really good hunt and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you were an indoorsy kid growing up. So was that guy that had the bird dogs, was he probably your biggest first influence, or what kind of really like was there a person that you're like, this guy's driving me all the time to get into this? And what was it about that person that you were just like, okay, let's do it?
Mhm. Yeah. No, so I'd say my first influential person was my older brother.
Hmm.
From a very early age, I mean, he was hunting squirrels and just kinda anything that he could do, that his little body allowed him to do. And, just that was a place for him that he just loved, and so it didn't matter what it was. he's probably successfully harvested every animal that you can legally in Indiana. Um, he's gone to endless states to chase mule deer, elk, bear. He lived in Iowa for probably longer than I realized, probably 7, 8 years, and chased whitetails out there. And um, the thing about my brother, and I think people listening, and I think that you can relate to this too. There's people that are hunters, and there's people that are just flat out killers, and there's a
Mhm.
difference, right?
Yeah.
I am not a killer. Like I always say, I'm more lucky than good. I think I can, given whatever bird it is, especially if I have some history with it, I can go and I feel like I know likely places to look to find a bird. But it's like 20, 50-50, or if I'm gonna like hit the bird in the air. But man, I don't know what it is about him, but like his marksmanship and just his intuition in the field of like when to make a move, say like if he's turkey hunting or something like that. Um, it's just on a different level that I will probably never get to,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I'm not just saying that because he's my brother. Like I've seen it just enough from him just to be like I said, he's not just a hunter, but he is like a killer. Um, and that was just always in front of me, like through my childhood. I didn't have any interest in it. I like, he'd bring dead stuff home and I was just kind of like, cool, whatever. It just didn't, for whatever reason, just didn't resonate with me. I would rather be inside eating Lucky Charms and watching SpongeBob, or whatever. And so,
Yeah.
but you fast forward, I get out of high school, out of college, um, and I had a switch flip, man, where I just, I was like, I want to explore more of this. I think it was like the desire for something difficult,
Mhm.
to kind of. I just didn't feel like very like just grown up, I don't know if like manly is the word, but I wanted to like feel more, um, just like have like that challenge before me, just to kind of toughen me up. And I thought that hunting was like a great opportunity to try to do that.
Yeah.
And so I got into it, and like second time out, like ever bow hunting. I mean, I went full tilt, man. I didn't even like start gun hunting. I started archery hunting for deer, and um, and I'll tell you what, and I'll backtrack a little bit from that. So the first church I was working at, there's a group of guys that still do it to this day. Like they go out to Colorado every year to elk hunt,
Mhm.
archery. And I remember in that time, I was just like, man, I know you guys go out there every year. I would love to go out and just like see the mountains, the West. I've never been there
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
Um, I would just like to see that and encounter that. And so they're like, yeah, please come along. Um, second or third day, like one of the guys in camp kills a bull elk. And so they're like, hey, we're gonna go help Danny pack this elk out. And I was like, cool. And I didn't really know like what that was about or what that meant.
Mhm.
But just followed along, and it was so cool, man. Like I'll never forget like coming down off the mountain, meeting up with those guys and being right behind Danny, and he had that skull cap and the antlers like hanging off the back of his Badlands pack, and I was just like, I've got to partake of this somehow, some fashion,
Mhm.
and so yeah, so I came home, you know, went to Bass Pro, got set up with a PSC Bow Madness, still have it to this day. Um, Second time out, I shoot at a whitetail doe, kill it, and was just like, okay, like I think I'm a hunter, and still not a killer, but but a hunter, and and yeah, and it's just kind of cascaded like into a lot of different things. I've also, I mean, pretty much pursued everything in my state as well, and not successfully harvest all those things, but I've pursued them and just yeah, it's just funneled down to the bird hunting thing. My brother does that some. He's got a bird dog himself, but it's definitely between his influence and then I would say just the generosity of David is his name. This is my friend in Iowa that just opened his doors. This was kind of before even like Instagram was really a thing. So I just hit him
Mhm.
up on Facebook Messenger after watching one of his YouTube videos of him hunting pheasants in Iowa with his Brittany's. And he said, just, hey, why don't you, if you ever come out to Iowa, why don't you just come on out and hunt with me? And yeah, so I hopped in my 1996 Toyota Camry and drove 10 hours to North Central Iowa, and, he kinda sealed it in for me that, like, I think the bird hunting is, like, where it is for me, and not only that, I know what breed I'm getting as well.
Yeah. There is something special about Brittany's for sure, man. And, like I have a French Brittany, but there's just the personality, the size. It's cool to see a dog that size point.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's just something really unique to it. And they
I
really,
love it. I
yeah.
was just gonna say, like, I love so Creek is barely 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like having a big cat in the house, and I
Mm-hmm.
love watching her, like, take to the field, and there's just a different shape she takes on. Like, when she slams on point,
Oh
and
yeah.
she gets down like a cat almost, and I she has just, like, this like, the sweetest disposition. She's a very warm dog. She looks you in the eyes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But when she locks on point, man, there's just, like, this face that she makes that she doesn't make at any other point, and it's like it's almost like she's just mad at the bird,
Mm-hmm.
and I just oh, man, I absolutely love it. It raises my blood pressure every single time, so
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to insert that as well.
Well, you can just tell the difference, and it is like you see all these GSPs, and they're great dogs too. Love them. I like all bird dogs. That's
Yeah.
one problem. We want to get another one at some point again, and you go down the line, and you're like, oh, what dog? And I always keep coming back to the Brittany because I just love them, and I do love that small dog point. I love that enthusiasm. They're super easy to train.
Mhm.
From having labs to have like labs are easy to train too, but I don't know, they're just different to me, man. And maybe it's because it's a boy dog. I don't know. I've always had female dogs and they can be a little temperamental, but um, it's just I don't know really how to describe what it's like having a dog that wants to hunt with you and because it just is super excited to hunt with you.
Mhm.
But so we kind of get when uplands started to be a focus for you, but what is it about the uplands? If you had, so I always think if I didn't have a bird dog, I probably wouldn't be that excited to hunt birds. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like they're delicious. I like shooting them. They're fun to shoot. I like the wing shooting aspect. But without a dog, to me, it's not really the same. I could be doing something
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
But what is it? What about it is it for you?
It's a lot of things. If I had to distill it down to one thing, there's a Scottish author. I don't know what her name is. If you give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Um, so her name is Julian and she's got a little book called Braving the Thin Places.
Mhm.
And it's Celtic wisdom for to create a space for grace. And so for me, um, I think I think for me the uplands are a thin place, and what I mean by that, and what she means as well, is that it's a place like where the space between you and God like is very, very thin. And where you can your senses and your affections are stirred like towards him,
Mm,
um, in response to like what you are witnessing or experiencing in front of you. Um, for me, it's those places that
mhm,
I love the bird dog aspect. Um, I will say, like, I've bird hunted plenty without a dog. Um, and if I'm being, like, really honest with myself, I'm still comfortable doing with that even today. I don't
mhm,
wanna do it, because the dog is just, like, adds, like, just so much awesomeness to it, and not only that, like, you and I were talking about just the advantage, with a dog with an animal that can smell 10,000 times better than you.
mhm,
Um, but I for me, it's like the immersion into a place, whether it's a patch of prairie in Iowa, it's maybe the short grass prairie of like central Kansas chasing prairie chickens, where um, I just like what I call it is just kind of like a beautiful void of nothingness,
mhm,
um, and for me, it's like a friend and I at Pheasant Fest this previous weekend, like we were talking about this, and I said it's a place where and maybe I'm getting a little too, like, poetic on you, but, like, it's a place, like, where the knots in my soul, like, untangle a little bit each time. 'cause we all have problems, we all got things that we're going through and things that are just life's just tough and things that you just wish were different, and I think that's what I love it too why I love it too is that it's just a constant,
Mhm.
um, like God is constant. The Bible says that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And I think there's a mirror of that when you're out in creation because no matter the how severe things that are going on, like I mean, you take like the craziness that was happening actually where Pheasant Fest was taking place this year in Minneapolis, and just everything with ice and all that,
Mhm.
to COVID-19 to viruses and sickness and death and despair that's all around, and even just the fast rate at which society moves these days. Um, but I love that like creation can't help but move at one singular pace that was set in place by the creator himself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so it is this constant that no matter how fast or out of alignment or just off the rails, maybe my life can seem to be at times, um, it never changes, you know? And so it's like a refuge and a respite that I can go back to, whether that's the dense forest of like the upper Midwest, or, the mountains of Kentucky, or, like I said, a CRP patch in Iowa, or, the wide open spaces of Kansas. It's always there. And as long, I mean, not always there, like we have influence over that, like what we allow to be and to not be on these places, and the expansion or the degradation of these places. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's always like singing the same tune, if you will, and it's like that's what keeps bringing me back as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. It's I do find a few things like hunting is a hunting just anything outdoors, whether I'm hiking or scouting or whatever it is. I do agree with you. There is like a giant element of decompression and peace that you can find there.
Hmm.
And I do find that unless I forget to help with the laundry every now and then, I have less problems if I hunt more.
Right, right,
you know, but,
right, right.
but make sure you help with the laundry every now and then,
100%. Yep.
What about the bird hunting community, man? You talked a lot about community and you're talking about God, and I love talking Jesus. So Jesus was the most community kind of person you can get, but I
Hmm.
wouldn't say that he was a social butterfly either. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
he was community and he liked his solo time, which kind of lends really well for hunters because sometimes you're by yourself and sometimes there's community. And you got to experience some community this past weekend with the Upland crew. What do you think about the community that Upland brings to the hunting space? Because I think it's pretty huge.
It's very huge, and I will say that that's like a big component of it for me too. Um, before we hopped on here, um, we were talking about Pheasant Fest a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I was just out to lunch with a church volunteer here, and he was asking about it as well. And I said, I just feel like I'm just like hanging out with my homies, and and what's cool about it too is I've hopped in the field several times now with people like I've never met prior, and we just
Mm-hmm.
drop the dogs and just go. And what I love about that is like there's like a deep kind of current that we're both just on, and understand about just bird dogs and the uplands and just the things that we care about. We're still different, I'm sure, in many ways, but we do share that thread and that commonality.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just like you just like it's just easy to talk about things because we're both kind of on the same wavelength. I think the community aspect in the upland bird hunting community is probably even more. I don't want to make anybody mad, but I think there is a tightness and a unifying thing about it that I've been in the duck hunting world, I've been in the whitetail world, and I just think that there's what I've noticed is that there's just more of a close knit kind of support system. I think that prevails in the upland community that, at least for my anecdotal experience, I have not experienced in other subgenres of hunting. One of the things that I think is because of that is because, the conventional way that you hunt whitetails in North America is to hang a tree stand and hunt in solitude, and you can't really talk, and for the most part, can't move. It is I mean, you are evaporating into the woods basically
Mhm.
to become the woods so that the deer
Mhm.
doesn't see you. Um, and it's kind of a numbers game too, right? Like, you've got plenty of people that, like, I will not shoot a deer that scores below this particular number.
Mhm.
Or even the duck hunting world where um, it's pretty competitive, like, in spots,
Oh, yeah.
and so, yeah, so there is kind of this competitiveness. Not every duck hunter, not every whitetail hunter is like that, so please don't hear that the wrong way. Um, but I think with the upland bird community, every bird is basically the same. Like,
Mhm.
a pheasant's a pheasant for the most part. If you shoot a really young pheasant, it's still got that white stripe down the middle, and a tail that's barely there. But every rooster is a rooster, every grouse is a grouse, every quail is a quail. So there's no, like, history that we have with these animals, one thing. We don't have trail camera photos of them for the most part. Like, there's
Mhm.
some pretty deep enthusiasts that put, like, cameras on drumming logs and stuff like that, but, um but, and then most times, like, when I, like, stumble into somebody else out in the uplands, they're either like, "Hey, great, alright, I'm going this way, you going that cool, awesome," or it's like, "Well, why don't we just hunt together?"
Mhm.
Because it's not really like a numbers game, like, we're obviously expelling a lot of calories and not regaining those in bird meat by any means,
Yeah.
even the person that shoots the most pheasants, like, in a year, let's say you shoot over 100 birds, like, in a season, whatever, in your state of Iowa or South Dakota or whatever, still not enough to, like, feed you for an entire year. You're not living off these things.
Right.
And I think that's something that we touched on too, like, in when I had you on,
Yeah.
is that it is first and foremost, like, adventure based,
Yeah.
and experience based.
Mhm.
It's not food acquisition based or even antler size acquisition or something like, like, you've got a turkey fan sitting in the background, I've got a grouse fan sitting in the background. That's typically the extent of these birds, like, how we, like, commemorate them for the most part. Like, I do have a pheasant taxidermy, but that's just because it was my first pheasant. Like, if I shot that bird today, there's nothing special about it that's gonna make me, like, wanna get it mounted.
Sure.
Um, and so, yeah, so every bird's basically the same. And so I think it just cuts down on the competitiveness. Um, and also, I think a lot of people in the uplands, because of just the bird dogs and, like, as I've heard described, like, when a bird dog, like, goes on point, it's like poetry in motion, and I can agree with that too. Um, we just kinda connect with maybe once again, I don't wanna sound elitist when I say this, but I think it's good for the sake of this conversation that, like, there's just, like, there's kinda more of just, like, the poetic, like, kind of sentimental things that we're connecting with as
Mhm.
opposed to, like, the actual animal itself, right?
Yeah.
And so I love whitetail hunters. I love duck hunters. I'm not standing here, like, trying to hate on anybody. I'm not saying that at all. But for me, it's definitely been, like, where I have found the most sense of, like, a home in the outdoor space is with the upland community. So,
Yeah.
and I'll caveat it too that, I mean, there's folks I've ran into that are bird hunters that's like, I'm fine if I don't ever interact with that person again. Like,
Yeah. Oh, for
so,
sure.
right. So there's bad apples in every bunch, but for the most part, man, I mean, just some of the best people I've ever rubbed shoulders with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. There is, like, an element of, like, bro culture and, like, measuring inches and stuff, and it's kind of like everybody's own hard. Like, I like bow hunting whitetails. I like the chase. I like being in a tree. I like figuring out where they're gonna be. The puzzle part of it is really fun. I don't really care about how big the buck is. Like,
Yeah.
I find the biggest buck I can, and I will give myself the best opportunity that I think I can to shoot him, and when something comes by and it makes me excited, I shoot it, like, I don't
Right.
really care. But, people can be like, "Well, it's the uplands, it's not that hard." Like, you're right, you couldn't really you could supplement some meat, you could shoot 100 roosters in a year and you'd have less meat than you did from one deer though, or whatever. But think about it this way, like, you talked about the people that went hunting for elk in Colorado. I can still have that adventure in the uplands, right?
Mhm.
When I was elk hunting in Colorado in 22, there were dusky grouse everywhere, like
Yeah.
all over the place. And we were finding them at not between like 9,500 and 11,000 feet. And I was hunting elk. I could have still taken that trip to do that adventure, and people would be, well, why would you drive to Colorado to, well, maybe I couldn't draw a tag, or maybe I had the time and it's something that I really wanted to do. Like, but you take away some element of stress from hunting in the uplands
Mhm.
because deer hunting and pretty much anything you're hunting with a bow, there's some element of stress involved. Most people don't like to come home with an empty tag. Like if you're going to go hunt, you're there to go try to kill an animal.
Mhm.
And of course you want to experience like the places and all that kind of stuff. But with the uplands, you're really there for the experience and the adventure
Mhm.
because shooting a bird is fun, but you know you're not there's no like big stakes. Like you didn't spend $750 on a tag for a dusky grouse and you didn't, you like if the weather's bad and it's bad for the rest of the week and you only got to hunt 4 days, like, okay, that's whatever. If
Mhm.
you're elk hunting, you're hunting in the rain. You know what I mean? Like there's so much of that part, which all that stuff is good because you are experiencing, like you're there to do the hard part, but the uplands, you get to do the hard part and not worry about the killing part as much. And
Right.
it is just so it is so relieving. The birds are an awesome bonus because it is fun to cook a
Mhm.
bird up in the field or bring them home and make some fun recipe. I love cooking, man. Like that's one of my
Yeah,
favorite things to
same.
do. And you get to do that. You get to do that with uplands, and you can do it everywhere. Every state has some kind of upland hunting adventure that you can go on.
Right.
Um, and everything's got its own little style, but it is pretty unique. Um, what about have you ever considered from a bird dog perspective, you know, I think I don't want to commit to it, but I'm probably a pointer guy for the rest of my life. But
Mhm.
have you ever considered other breeds?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't, right? I definitely have not resolved to being a breed snob at this point in my, small hunting career. Um, I love Brittany's, I really do. And probably, like, if I had to make a decision today, I would just get another Brittany. Um, but I definitely think that setters are really cool looking dogs.
Hmm.
I love the style. I've hunted with several now and just love their style. Nothing cooler than walking up to just a frozen dog with that tail like just so high up in the air. I think that's really
Hmm.
really neat. Um, Hunted with a guy this year up in Wisconsin that he has a Vizsla, and I just thought that was like a neat
They're
breed
great
that I'd
dogs. Yeah.
never hunted with, and um, yeah, I mean, so there's several breeds. I hung out for a little bit with a cocker spaniel this last weekend at Pheasant Fest, and I don't, man, I just like them. They're just like little pistols, man, and there's something about them too. And they're a flushing breed.
Mhm.
They're not a pointing breed,
Yeah.
but I could see having some fun with that thing too. So yeah, there's definitely like some allure to breed curiosity on the other side of the fence.
Yeah. The, I, my flushing dog was a lab and we talked about her, but that would probably, if I was going to go a flusher, I would probably go like a field bred cocker because they're pretty neat and unique to the space too.
Hmm.
And since we already have two dogs, if I want to get more, I want to keep them all this small. So
Yeah,
I don't live in a mansion. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. There's definitely yeah. You got to think about real estate, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, what do you think? What makes a good bird dog for Ryan?
Okay, yeah, for sure. So for Ryan, for myself, I'm gonna kind of fly in the face a little bit of I'm not gonna talk about hunting first. I'm
Hmm.
gonna talk about civilian life,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I really like, and kind of just fell backwards, fortunately, into this dog Creek. So she's my 5-year-old American Brittany. I really like a dog that is, the term I used here, several minutes ago was a warm dog. A dog that is like Creek looks me in the eye a lot. Like she's
Hmm.
very in tune with just my demeanor, what I'm thinking, what I'm saying. Um, and I really like that, like, because for me, so she lives in the house, she sleeps in the bed with us. I mean, she's a 30-pound teddy bear.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, I like that. I like that companionship. You are a part of this family, and she's on the couch with us. We're trying to keep her out of our food when we're trying to eat dinner. Like she's everywhere, like wherever we are. And I like that. I like a dog that wants to be all over you. Some people don't like that, but I want a dog that wants to be with you, that just thinks that the best thing in the world is to be wherever you are. And Creek definitely fits that bill. Um, but what I like is for that to be our kind of day to day life, but I like the Hulk to be able to come out when we hit the field.
Mhm.
And there's definitely a different temperature in my dog whenever we hit the grouse woods or the pheasant fields or whatever. She just turns it on. She knows exactly what her job is. She knows what she's doing. Has a fantastic nose. Um, a very high prey drive,
Mhm.
which is something that I really value as well. I would rather, you maybe have heard that term before, that you can always pull a check cord back, but you can't push one forward.
Yep.
And so I would rather have a dog that is maybe a little too ambitious and is even bumping birds. If I'm being honest, like that still happens to this day with Creek. Like it happens. And I think a lot of us, if we're being honest, it happens with a dog that we've had for numerous years now.
Yeah.
Um, but I would rather have that, like, that more pronounced prey drive, and I have to kinda, like, pull you back a little bit than just trying to get you excited,
Mhm.
about birds. And so we've really found this sweet spot where, things are civil in the home, and, I mean, she's still, like, you know, she kinda gets in trouble every now and then, just getting stuff out of the trash, or like when we had this real big snow, here a few weeks back. I know you guys got like 14 inches up there in PA.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had like 2 weeks, like, where we couldn't really, like, do anything. And she was starting to get, like, a little destructive, and I was just like, hey, hats off to her for holding on this long, and so yeah, so we got like our little quirks and problems, um, but yeah, she's just found that good tension of just like knowing how to be in the house, but then she's just like a pocket rocket, like when we get
Yeah.
out in the woods, and so that's what I look for in a dog. That's the type of if it's, I don't just want this, this automaton or whatever of a robot that is a hunting machine, but doesn't just know how to be like your friend. That pack mentality, that teamwork, that family bond, whatever you want to call that, like that's probably for me, like if that wasn't like a part of it, I probably wouldn't be interested in like the dog that much, like
Yeah.
because for me it's just that real emotive like tie and that bond that we share. So hunting's very important. That's got to be in place too. But I don't want you just to be all talent. I want you to be heart and soul as well.
Yeah. I would agree with that too, and because I'm not a trial, like, I'm never gonna take my I shouldn't say never because that's never not a thing, but I'm probably not going to take my dog to any kind of trial. Like, I think he
Yeah.
would do well. I think I could work with him in a few quirks and get him to where he needs to be, but I'm not really interested. I want a dog that can hunt and have that prey drive and me just let him go wild. And same same kind of scenario, like you said, he he's 2, he bumps birds, like, he's still a puppy. But there is something about when he does that, he knows because he's already gotten to know me so well. Same deal, man. Dog looks me in the eyes all the time. He wants to be where I am all the time. And, if he gets too worked up on it, when they get that bird drunky, like their tail's going and their eyes are wide and they can't even, it's like they don't even hear you.
Oh yeah.
When he loses that scent because that bird went running away and he can't figure it out, or he bumped that bird, he
Hmm.
comes back and he's like, "Man, I know I messed up." And
Yeah.
that's what he's saying. And then you come here like, "Well, that's what happens, dude. Like, you gotta chill out." And then the next time around, he gets it right. And they
Yeah.
figure that out all on their own. You don't have to be like, "You did it wrong. These are the things you could do better."
Hmm.
Like, they just figure it out. And I love
Yeah.
that about most bird dog breeds are like that. Like, I know
Right.
there's plenty of people that say like there's some dogs that are built for a 4x4 or 2x4, but like there's a lot of bird dogs that just get it. And when they mess up, they figure it out from
Mhm.
messing up.
Yeah.
Would you call yourself a real hands-on trainer, or you kind of just like let them figure it out and do their thing?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say, like, super hands-on in the sense of, like okay, so I got Creek in March of '21, probably June or July of '21. I met up with a friend that has a couple Brittany's himself, and, um, we did the gun intro with pigeons, and, man, I that's about it. Like, I made sure she wasn't gun shy, and I took her hunting.
Uh-huh.
Um, one thing in there too, so I do, I've had several pigeons, like training pigeons, like at home.
Uh-huh.
I'm down to one just now, at this point. Um, and I don't really, I still, it's just kind of like a pet now. I just feed it, and take, do that. But one thing that I messed up in doing, and I know you didn't necessarily ask for this, but I think it's still worth saying.
Yeah, I want to
Um,
hear it.
so I didn't have like a remote launcher, like where I could release the bird like remotely. Um, and this is like so stupid, but so I had a foot release that I got for free from somebody. And I would put the pigeon in there. And this was like in the warmer months, like this is like July, August. So, the grass is cut. Grass is really short.
Uh-huh.
And I would like just like take like, just clippings and shavings from like the cut grass and kind of put it over the bird release. Well, Creek found out that she could get really close, like to that pigeon. And then she knew that I had to come up and release it with like the foot release.
Oh,
That has been, I think, a detriment to our bird etiquette, like out like in the wild,
yeah.
where especially with woodcock. I mean, she has. I don't know what it is about woodcock. She has little regard for them. Like she'll point. We'll get some good points on them every now and then, but for the most part, and I think she knows that. Like particularly even that bird, she knows she can get close to it because like you've hunted them too. Like they don't. You can almost step on them before they flush on you. But yeah, even with like um, pheasants and grouse, um, we'll bump birds because of that. Once again, I always tell people about once out of every 10 times, it probably goes textbook where she locks that bird down. I walk up, I flush it, shoot it, and that's like you really savor those. Um, and I will say too, though, like she'll creep on birds, and sometimes right, wrong, or indifferent, like it's advantageous for us because like rooster pheasants, for example, and rough grouse are like this. I think not quite as much as like a rooster pheasant. Um, but I mean, they're going to move off from you. And so sometimes you'll have a dog that's on point. And it's like, well, the rooster's 60 yards up there, and so we're just, this really isn't like advantageous for us to be, pointing like this from this far away and
Yeah.
having to like constantly you know, whereas Creek, like sometimes, not all times, but sometimes she can put that pressure on the bird and then we can corral it
Uh-huh.
to flush, 20 yards from us, whatever, and I can get a shot on it. And so that's kind of like a silver lining in all this. I do know it probably in the right trainer hands, I could reverse that. Um, I'm not necessarily sure on how to do that myself. Um, So I would say at this point, I'm just hands off. Like my dog, like we're at a point, I definitely could like train more hands-on stuff in the summertime, or whatever, in the off season. Um, you know, I, I'm pretty, I try to lump all of my like extra energy into actually hunting season. And
Uh-huh.
I don't, I mean, I'm sure I could probably cut something out and make more time to like kind of focus on those things, like, right at daylight, or whatever. But at the same time, man, I'm just like, I'm not trying to win any awards. I'm
Uh-huh.
content. Like we go out, we find birds, we shoot birds. Um, and I don't know. I just love it. So I do anytime I hunt with somebody, I always add like the caveat, like, now look, like my dog's like not like it this I don't wanna mess anything up for you,
Yeah.
and people are usually just like, "Oh, yeah, man, I'm not worried," but I always try to, like, add that caveat before we get started, that my dog's not, like, It's not like she's just completely just rock solid all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So, um, but but yeah, I don't think it's ill will on her part or anything like that. I think she's just gotten used to a certain lifestyle, if you will, of, like,
Yeah.
knowing that, like, "Okay, when he walks up, like, I know the bird's, like, gonna take off, and so I'm ready, and let's get this thing, dad." You know, I think it's kinda more coming from that place, you know, or at least that's what I like to think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so to get back to your question, yeah, I'm pretty at this point pretty hands off. When we do bring that new puppy home, like I will definitely have some hands on in the sense of like, you know, I feel like gun intro did that the right way. But with the pigeon stuff, I probably won't even use pigeons. I'll probably, you know, make sure he or she is not gun shy. And then come September, October, it's like, let's just get after it
Yeah.
and start chasing them around. And I believe that the birds will teach you what you are supposed to do.
Yeah, pen birds and wild birds are different, and I didn't do a whole lot of I did a pigeon intro just so he could, like, learn what a bird is and whatever. Uh, Now in PA, we can go to public land and put chukar out,
Yeah.
in the off season, so that's kind of chukar and I think quail, that's it maybe not I can't remember, chukar for sure.
You can release pen raised like your own pen raised birds on public lands.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's a thing here. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember I guess quail you can't because pigeons and chukar is what you're allowed to use in PA, and you can do it
Okay.
at any time of the year except for like during the youth pheasant season and during deer seasons or something like
Okay.
that. So you're allowed to train all year long. So March, April, we might do some chukar stuff this year or whatever. But the thing that since we're kind of talking about mistakes, the one mistake that I made is that I had a flusher before. Flushers are close ranging dogs, and you can basically always see them,
Hmm.
or you should, because their job is to just flush the bird in front of you. So I have a collar, I just have a training collar. I don't have a collar that tracks the dog. And that's something that I'm going to invest in this year just because I don't want to be whistling to my dog to come out of the brush when he's on point on something. Those are
Right.
the things that you like it might not be needed. I know people like to hunt with bells or whatever, but I think that's something really important for a pointing breed is like just let them do their thing because
Hmm.
they know what they're doing and you got to trust them. But and we're hunting in all these different habitat types. Whether if you're hunting grouse, like you can almost never see the dog, like
Right.
they're in thick stuff, under stuff, whatever it is, and I don't want to be limited to just traditional everybody get in a line and march pheasants down a field or something like that. So that is definitely something that I would change about the way I train or have trained. But I'm glad you shared that, man. That's something that can help people, but it doesn't have to be an all or nothing kind of thing. Like you might get another puppy one day that you're excited and you're like, hey, this dog's got some potential and maybe I could do a competition with this dog because your training is going to be better and better every time you do it. Maybe
Hmm.
that's something that would happen in the future. Maybe not but you never have to limit yourself when you're talking about bird hunting in the uplands.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you, you've gotten to hunt out of state quite a bit. You said you've hunted 11 states with Creek, and that's pretty awesome and something that I'm going to strive to do is to hunt different places with Rue and and check those places out. What's important to you when you're hunting out of state? Is it as far as like habitat goes, how are you picking it? Are you like I'm going to look at the access or the cover type, or are you kind of trying to get a contact in those kind of places? What are you doing to do that?
Yeah. So yeah, one thing for sure is I would typically, if I feel like I can find the right person, I will reach out um, to like a local biologist. Like I've had some like really good conversations with like biologists in Kansas, for example.
Hmm.
And side note for anyone listening, that's like just a great. It's an underutilized resource is to reach out to these DNR state employees, biologists, habitat specialists that are like this is their life and they love talking about it.
Hmm.
and they may not, they're not necessarily going to give you like a pin, but they're going to point you in the right direction typically because they enjoy seeing the fruits of their labor and people going to enjoy what they're working year round to make better. And so they're a great resource to lean on. Um, I think even a lot of times like more um, a better resource than even just maybe just picking someone's brain that like has hunted there maybe in the past
Yeah.
because they're there all the time. It's nothing against that other person or whatever, but that's just that person's life. They're out there with those animals even in non-hunting season.
Mm.
So yeah, don't be ashamed or afraid to just when you see that little you know blue phone number text on that page that you're looking at, call them. Like they're not scary, I promise. um, and so yeah, so that's one thing that I definitely do. If I can locate a person. Two, it all depends on like what I'm looking for. So let's take rough grouse for example. I'm looking for yes, access, which, whether you're talking upper Midwest or even like, your haunts in Pennsylvania, I've not hunted that yet and hope to definitely change that at some point. But
Mhm.
I'm looking for a conglomeration of public lands, be it national forest, state forest, WMAs. Um, what you're looking for rough grouse typically is, and maybe like just stop me if I'm not answering this correctly, but um, I'm looking for a patchwork of different age classes of trees.
Mhm.
So whether I'm throwing on layers and onyx to see what year these are cut. So like a rough grouse, you're anywhere between that kind of 10 to 20, 22-year old, anywhere in there is a good starting point. But I think having different like age groups of trees kind of all together. So old, kind of midlife, if you will, and
Mhm.
then like young, like 10, 15, 20-year-old cuts. It's just great because grass are using all that at certain times. But they need that. You have to have that young regeneration, that 10 to 20-year-old cut component of it because they use that for escape cover. So, what that looks like on a map is if you're looking at the trees, from an aerial photo, it's going to have a real fuzzy look to it
Mhm.
if the leaves are on, and that will, and you'll see if you look close enough, throw on the 3D layer that Onyx provides as well. You'll see even like the height difference between mature trees and young trees.
Mhm.
Um, Pheasants. Yeah, I'm looking for kind of woolly, fuzzy CRP drainages and prairie grass strips, particularly close to some ag. That where the birds have been feeding on that. All growing season and. Well, not so much growing season. They're kind of more diversified with insects and stuff at that time of the year. But yeah, like once a harvest has happened, and they can get out, get that grain, and get back into cover. Um, so it all depends on the bird. Prairie chickens, giant, expansive, undisturbed, short grass prairie
Mhm.
that doesn't exceed like your kneecaps.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for prairie grouse. And bobwhites, it's a little bit of a mixture of like a brushy component, think like a tree line, or like maybe it's an irrigation ditch, but it's got like some brushy, shrubby stuff growing up on the sides of it, mixed with some thin kind of grass it's still tall, but it's open underneath where those birds can move freely through,
Mhm.
and then perhaps some ag is not a bad thing either. So, um, and that takes on many shapes and forms. Kansas, I'm looking at most of the times I'm looking at completely like weehaw areas. So the walk-in hunter access or walk-in hunting access, something like that is what that
Yeah.
stands for.
Yep.
So yeah, so it just all depends on the bird. But yeah, that's usually what I'm cruising around looking for. Whatever what state I'm in, it all depends on the bird. But yeah, reach out to your local employee, and then just scout a lot, um, and and then just like go try them, and sometimes they're a bust. Sometimes, it's not the most updated recent imagery. So you get there and they allow grazing onto the property, from cattle. And so it's, the habitat's mowed down to the ground and you can pretty much just like move on from that spot, especially if
Yeah.
you're talking like pheasants, quail, prairie grouse is a little bit different because they can still do well and, just, pretty short grass. And so, um, So, yeah, I don't know if I'm really answering your question,
No,
but,
that totally did, and
yeah.
I'm glad you said that about being diverse because it's important, in the grouse. We talked about clear cuts on your podcast too, and the important thing is to know with OnX. A lot of times you go to that waypoint that you dropped that you're like, this is it. It is going to
Mhm.
happen at this, and you get there and it is completely not what you expected.
100%.
And clear cuts, especially those these like young forests, successional growth and stuff like that, whatever the fancy terms are for it. You might find one that you're like, this one's 10 years old. It's perfect. And you get there and it looks like a cut that happened a year ago. Like
Right.
there's still nothing happening. Or you can get one that's like 20 years old and it looks like it's 5 years old because it's so thick. You really do have to keep it diverse. And I can think of a handful that you can't always go by the age of the cut. I mean, it's a helpful guide, but
Sure.
you maybe it depends on sun exposure or what was growing there beforehand or what wants to happen there. Does it want to be trees? Does it want to be mm, open fields or whatever for the rest of forever? But it does matter to keep those things diverse. And calling a biologist might to some people be a waste of time, but I agree with you. I don't think that it is, but you do have to ask. You can't call a biologist and be like, "Hey, do you have some areas I can hunt?" Like, ask them the right questions first.
Mhm.
They want to, like you said, they want to kind of make their element shine, not because they want to
Right.
brag about what they did, but they do want those things so ask about their management and where you might find, um, do your research on what the food sources are and where you might find, um, the best are the best crops in the southern part of the state or the western part of the state, those kinds of things. And where can I find this kind of stuff or whatever. And if you start to ask about the habitat and their involvement in it and have some kind of meaning given to their job,
Mhm.
they're more likely to be like, you know what, like this has been a really good place for the last couple of years. But they're not going to just off the bat be like, yeah, here, go hunt this spot.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's yeah, like, calling them the way that I always lead off is I say, like, "Hey, I'm planning to come to this area, and I just so this is, like, where I'm staying, and had this spot, is this a good starting point?"
uh
Um, it's still vague enough to like, where you're not asking them for a specific, like, location or a pin or GPS coordinates. Yeah, I mean, they can a lot of these people are I mean, they've got degrees, like, they're smart people. They can sense whether, like, you're, a lot of times, like, a respectable person or not,
yeah.
um, and so a lot of times, I mean, yeah, they'll give me more information and, point me in the right direction. And yeah, because like you said, they wanna see, like, the fruits of their labor, and they wanna
uh
see people going and recreating and enjoying, like, what they've worked so hard to, like, create. I mean, just think, like, if you opened a bakery, but nobody ever came and bought bread, that's kinda like how they would I would think, I would
yeah.
love to know if I was in their shoes to like, "Man, that dude or that gal, they came and they shot a prairie chicken, and I've been, like, working so hard to, like, conserve prairie chickens on this parcel or whatever to, like, make
uh
sure that, they've got a place to be here," um so yeah, and I think that they're thinking along those lines too, So it's, like I said, underutilized resource in my opinion, probably some of the best resource, are those people.
yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example. I went out and hunted like, I mean, I've kind of been all over Iowa hunting, but there was, um, part of the state that I went to that I called out there. I said, "Hey, I'm coming here. I've never hunted, but this has just been on my bucket list. A specific place, just a cool geological area. Um, do you know, like, is there anybody I can talk to that, like, kinda is managing, like, upland bird habitat out in this area?" He goes, "Well, like, I bird hunt this a lot, and, like, so we ended up talking, probably well past a half hour or so, and he just invited me, like, he's like, "Man, hit me up, like, if you come out here and hunt." And sure enough, I did, like, we met up one day, and, like, he just put me on, like, a pile of birds. And yeah, so, like, you never know, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
uh
The the opportunities that that will create for you, because once again, the Upland community is, you know, but generally, very generous and wants to help out, and just, yeah, help get people like started on the right foot and have good experiences. And I've had countless time after time, examples of that, like where people have at least over the phone pointed me the right direction, if not in person.
Yeah. What about you do spend some time I listened to one of your podcasts, you spend some time hunting in Ohio,
Yeah.
where it's kinda like not a very high density area and you're spending a lot of time walking. What makes a really good hunt, even if there's no birds or the shooting opportunities aren't great? What makes that adventure worth it?
Um, I ask myself the same thing sometimes. um, I've been blessed and I've been cursed to start bird hunting when I have in Indiana. Because you walk all day with your fingers crossed behind your back that you'll find a covey of quail.
Mhm,
And when you do, you feel like it's like the best day ever. And and then maybe even getting to take a bird out of it as well. Um, so because of that, like I'm not sitting here and saying that like, oh, I've just got like so much like grit or, just I'm just like the most determined hunter or whatever. I'm not saying that. I do think it has conditioned me mentally, um, to just kind of keep grinding. And more times than not, that pays off, where I'm putting a bird in my vest in a place that I shouldn't,
mhm,
if that makes sense. And so Ohio, like wild Ohio pheasants, like being a great example of that. Like I've shot two there, and I I wouldn't be surprised, and you know, once again, I'm not trying to sound elitist when I say this, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm the only person in my whole state that has traveled to Ohio and like successfully shot a wild pheasant, in
yeah,
the last couple of years.
yeah,
Maybe, or at least you could count maybe on one hand, those people.
right,
Um, and it's not because there's anything special about me. It's just because I, I just know that if you keep going, like eventually it's going to pay off. And I think that makes a good hunt. I love getting to the end of the day, especially if you've got like a bird to show for it, that makes it
mhm,
sweeter. But getting to the end of the day and you're tired, you're cramping. I take cramps really, really bad. It's gotten better because I've finally found like an electrolyte supplement that I think is working for me. But um, and you're just wrung out, but it's like just a good tired.
mhm,
It's not like it's not like I'm exhausted, like, I'm over this. It's like, "Oh, man." That's like I just feel like I got, like, done riding a bull, and sometimes this is like you know what this is like. In the moment, sometimes it's like, "This is awful. Like, this is not fun. I've
mhm.
not flushed anything for hours. Is there even a bird around here?" Like, you're having all those
I'm
thoughts.
selling all my stuff.
Yeah, you're just you're kinda, like, jumping ship a little bit mentally.
Yeah,
And then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it finally happens. And you and your dog, at least my dog, you're met with some just unexpected energy that you didn't know that you had and excitement. And for me, man, like I love that. And I typically remember those birds and those moments a lot better than like, oh, I just went out and like shot my limit in an hour. And and every now and then you need a hit like that, right?
oh yeah,
Like
for sure.
where, it's just you need some like just like heavy action like that. I love days like that. I don't know if it means any more to me than just like when I go out, I grind all day and finally put a bird in the bag. Like this last October, I went out, I drove probably 1,500 miles round trip to go to Kansas to hunt prairie chickens.
Mhm,
Hunted a new place that I'd never been to before. Um, Missed several birds like already, like that day. I hunted that previous day, never saw a bird. Hunted the next morning, afternoon. Missed a couple birds. Was really kicking myself. Um, and um, and then yeah, I mean, just and it was hot. Like if you remember, just kind of like September, October, November. It was
yeah,
just like unseasonably warm. I feel like just kind of across the country.
mhm,
Kansas was no exception, and the last little bit of light, like on that final full day that I was there, um, I shot a bird, and I ran up to it, grabbed it, and just like kind of about fell face down, like in tears, because we had just grinded so hard. And I
Yeah.
was hot, I was sweaty, I was disgusting. I hadn't showered in a couple days, and like just, but so to sit there and hold that bird, and prairie chickens are, there's not a whole lot of them anyway, so like one's enough regardless.
Uh-huh.
But just the amount and elevation change, and just the blood, sweat, and tears, like literally, that I had to kind of fight through to get to that. It made that bird like so much more sweet. And I remember that a whole lot more than like, yeah, there were birds everywhere. And we were, like we had our limit in 45 minutes. Um, and like I said, love days like that. I think you kind of need them every now and then.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, what I'm going to remember most is like, man, we had to earn that thing. And so I think for me, that's like what makes a really good hunt. Um, and so that's how I hunt around here. Like I know it's going to be hours sometimes before I make contact, if I make contact at all. And so, yeah, that's just kind of that's the style that I've settled into. And, you know, technically in Southern Indiana, we've got 2 zones for quail. Southern zone where I live, you can shoot 8 a day. That is not accurate, compared to bird densities.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's just kind of like old regulations or whatever that are still in place. Uh, but for me, it's like once I shoot a bird, like I'm kind of like, we're basically done for the day. Like it
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people would think you should pick up something else, but I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah, I hear that. So here is where you and I are different. You said that somebody told you to start a podcast and you took a couple weeks to think about it. I think I took like 4 years to think about it. Which isn't like a bad thing, but I'm in the space because I don't think I'm in the space to really fill any gaps. Like there's so many hunting podcasts and fishing podcasts. I am in the space to represent Jesus and to represent how awesome our country is with hunting and fishing and to get more people into it. One thing that you mentioned too is, your wife likes to watch the dog and she loves the outdoors and stuff. I think it's fine for people to have their own thing because I do that too. Like, oh, like say I'll say the same things. My wife has her own thing. She doesn't have to like hunting and fishing the way I do, but
Yeah.
she really, really supports it. And we need voices that are in support of the things that we love too, even if they don't do it. Like there's a lot of people that are on the fence about hunting and fishing, but people like you and I can help those people be cool with it and be like, yeah, I know somebody. They're super respectable and take care of the land and they probably put way more effort into it than this kind of thing. But at some point, it's not just the podcast because I want like attention or whatever. I do want to make an impact in a positive way on hunting and fishing and people. Where does your impact fall with the Upland Social?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't know if I really have anything to measure it with at this point.
Uh huh.
So some of it is just maybe aspirational or just hopes that it is making a positive impact. I will say that since I've started, which I started my first episode released May 28th of last year,
Uh huh.
um, there's definitely been a lot of like folks that have reached out and have just affirmed that like, hey, love what you're doing. Like, appreciate that you're kind of finding these more like off the radar people that maybe have never been on a podcast before. I've had several people that um, have even said like I've never been on a podcast before. I'm kind of nervous, and I always tell them I'm like you're the exact person I'm looking for,
Uh huh.
and because I just think it's cool you've never been on one, but I really like what you got going on, and I want to share that with people, and so I guess what I'm getting at is I think the positive impact that I'm hopefully having is helping showcase people or whatever you want to call it, um, that are doing really awesome things out there, like in the upland bird community, but maybe just haven't had the eyes put on them, that I think that their work deserves. And when I say work, that can mean a lot of things. It could be a person's YouTube channel. It could be just the simple fact that I got a guy that his episode just released today. That's up in the Pacific Northwest. That's hunting rough grouse in some of the most unhospitable country, in the nation to
Mhm.
hunt rough grouse, and um, you know, had 20 flushes on rough grouse for his entire season last year, but just loves it, and was apprehensive about his bird dog and was anxious about like how to um, even get him started as a bird dog, and therefore it kind of delayed his hunting with them for a few years, just because he didn't want to mess it up. And I think I want to tell those stories more,
Mhm.
because I think um, that's where a lot of people can just relate to that. Like I want people to listen to my show
Mhm.
and say, "Wow, that sounds kind of like me." Like that's what I'm experiencing. I can relate to that. Um, and to be clear, like I have, I mean, I don't know what the term is, like higher, more well-known people that have been on my show, and I aim to have those, like I know you've had Travis Frank on before.
Mhm.
I've had a person or two like that as well, that is more known in the space. I definitely want, a big chunk of it to be people that aren't known,
Mhm.
and where I can help kind of expand the the social piece, I guess, just like it's in the name, the Upland Social, to people that are, kind of around the campfire as well, that maybe the glow of the campfire, if you will, is on some people's faces a little more than others. And, and I want to shine that light like on those other folks, that um, I think deserve a seat at the table as well. And to tell their story. And I think and that we can learn from them as well. So that's the hopes and the aspiration of like what I hope the Upland Social brings to people.
Yeah, I love that, dude. I love it so much. There is just something about the uplands, man, that just everything about it, the community aspect, the adventure part, the dogs, everything. I love it. And I
Hmm.
love what you're doing. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. It's awesome. Thanks for coming on today. Where can people find you, buddy?
Yeah, yeah. So the Upland Social is what it's called. So it is a podcast. It's not called the Upland Social Podcast, just the Upland Social. You can find that on wherever you consume and listen to those podcasts. You can find that there. Um, Instagram is just the Upland Social as well. You can also reach out to me at ryan@theuplandsocial.com as well. Love to connect with you. Um, please don't hesitate to reach out. Tell me what you want to hear. I'm all ears. So let's be social.
Cool. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you coming on so much.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time today too, Aaron. It was really enjoyable.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in to listen to Ryan. Like I said in the beginning, check out the links in the show notes. Follow his show. Check him out on Instagram, the Upland Social. I really appreciate you guys listening week after week. It would so much help me if you left me a rating and a review so this show can reach more ears. I I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So if you would do that, if you also would follow the show on Apple or Spotify, that would be fantastic. Tune in with me, reach out to me on Instagram. It's at incamp_podcast. You can also email me incamppodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to hear any certain topics or if you have a question about anything, I am available. So hit me up. Thanks again. This is In Camp Podcast.